So that we've been talking about this sense discipline or restraint of senses for a couple of weeks, And then the sense discipline or the restraint of senses or sense faculty many times come in the Buddhist teaching, such as with senses calm, with senses serene. This is how the sense discipline is mentioned in these translations. It comes in many discourses in different ways. You see. And then I said the why this sense discipline is important for us. This has a major area of this meditation. You see, that even though we talk about feelings, perceptions, emotions, and so on and so, we pretty much fail to see what is underlying causes for these things, you see. That we don't see it. We mostly try to read things and try to find explanation for it from outside. But no matter how much information we collect, it doesn't help us unless we begin to have some sense of what we do to ourselves. The lack of sense discipline, in the teaching it says the reason for that is asata asampajanas. That means a lack of awareness of mindfulness causes the sense faculties not to be restrained. So then the sense faculty not restrained basically means whatever come in contact with our senses, plus whatever the ideas and experiences whenever we reflect upon, that our mind is started to related to it in two different ways. If it is pleasant, if it is agreeable, if it is likable, if it excites us, we just simply go for it, longing for it, desiring it, and being obsessed with it, and producing attachment to it, you see. That's the one aspect of it. The other aspect is if it is unpleasant, not agreeable, not exciting us, not enticing us, and then we started to be dismayed by it. We are dejected, we are distressed, and then we started to produce all kind of a negative or ill will or some sort of a putting it down kind of ideas and opinions. These two things, these two activity is very common to us, and this is what we do from the morning to evening, you see. And no matter how much we watch the breath or pay attention to the feelings, this behavior goes on, you see. So then this is the behavior. This behavior is what mostly determine our healing or hurting aspect. We mostly talk about in our these days, we hear all the time people saying, you need to heal yourself. You need to have compassion for yourself. You need to forgive. These are words that we have heard for so long. We also know it. And then we still try to have compassion for ourselves. We try to heal ourselves and we try to forgive all these people who have hurt us or said something or done something to us, we continue it. But when you really look at it, this hurt, not being compassionate to ourselves in a different way, when we really look at it all comes in relation to this, whatever the sense discipline is. Even though we usually say somebody hurt me, of course it can happen under different circumstances. But if it is an old wound, and if we still, whenever we remember it, whenever we recollect it, if it is still hurting, that means that we are dwelling upon that, whatever the incident, event, without properly being able to understand it. With some kind of a holding is there, you see. So then the sense discipline basically means, when we really understand it, this running with the positive way or rejecting it with the negative way is to some extent a balance, you see. And when we not go to an extreme with these two aspects, it begins to heal ourselves, you see. The healing begins when we keep our mind in a secure, peaceful state of mind. That is what this senses calm, sense faculty serene basically means, That means no matter what we hear, no matter what we see, no matter what event and incident come to our recollection, we are not running with it this way, that way. We have some sort of a way of reflecting upon it, and that gives us some sort of a serene, calm, peaceful state. That is what the healing, you see. That is what the self-compassion is, you see. That means it is your doing. You have to have this mechanism properly understood, so that you can protect yourself from your own bad behavior of the mind. You see. Protecting myself from my own bad behavior of the mind is not very appealing, you see, because we all don't want to see that we have a bad behavior here in our own mind, to whatever we see, whatever we smell in relation to our senses, you see. We don't look at it that way. We think, bad behavior is belong to somebody. Somebody is behaving bad. And they need to correct themselves so that I can be at peace, you see. This is why we are always try to fix it from outside. We can try. Sometimes, occasionally we might win, but mostly we fail, you see. Because it doesn't matter how loving and how caring we are to a particular person. For a while it can be good, and then when they keep, maturing, go into their own things, when they have their own ideas and opinions and whatever, and then they go their own way doing whatever they do, and then that begin to hurt me, you see, because that whatever the love and care, whatever that way I expected now is not there, so that my own mind has started to contact that incident or that person or the approach in a kind of a different way, you see. So this is why we are always in this web of whatever the mind created things that we are running after, you see. That web, we have to stabilize it, not to continue it that way. That is what the sense discipline is. That is why this awareness and mindfulness, not only when you sit on the cushion, not only when you go on a retreat, but in every where in our life we have to be alert and awake into that, you see. We have to see whenever we go off, then we have to have a little break and say, oh, I got to pull back. It's hurting me. It's disturbing me. Therefore, in order to heal myself, I have to understand that process. When I understand that process and I stay into the middle, not going to these extremes of positive and negative, like and dislike, loving and hating, and that's what practically being self-compassion means. That way, your mind started to heal. So then when the sense discipline is not there, the contact that I was talking about, our contact is not proper, you see. When we look at this contact, I said a lot of things about this last few weeks. There is another interesting thing, you see. That means, look at this karma thing that we're talking about. Oh, I do the good karma, bad karma. You basically understand this. Karma basically means if you do good and you are rewarded, if you do good, it heals yourself. If you do good, it accumulates merit for your own benefit. If you do bad things and it hurts you, it also can hurt somebody else. If you do bad things, you will be punished. If you do bad things, you're going to regret. You're going to have guilty feeling and remorse. If you do bad karma, then it also generate what we call demerit, something which is going to be in favor of us, not in favor of us down the road. It's going to go against us under different circumstances. So then the karma is something we do. It's our doing, you see. It's my doing, you see. And how I do the karma? 3 aspects are there, verbal, physical, mental, you see. Verbal, physical, mental, karma. So then in these 3 karma, the verbal and physical is minor, you see. Mental one is the main important thing, you see. It is just like in a court of law, when somebody has done something bad and when he is arrested and bring into the court, and then the prosecutors are presenting what was his motive, you see. And the motive, he has planned, he has the motive, and then the guilt, the punishment is going to be severe. If it is just a verbal and physical, it just happened, then there might be a 2nd degree kind of a thing. It just happened under those circumstances, but there was no planning, there is no strong intention. Therefore, you are not severely punished. So it comes to the mental thing, intention, you see. Therefore, in the Buddhism, it says, Chetanaham bhikkhave kammang vadami. Karma basically means your intention. What kind of intention, what kind of motive is there? That is the main part is considered, you see. The verbal, physical thing is secondary, basically. The intention is very important. So in the same way, this karma, katamocha bhikkhave kammanam nidana sambhava. What is the origin? What is the source of this karma? This question is asked, you see. And then the Buddha says, Passo bhikkhave kammana nidana sambhava. Contact is the origin and the source of karma, you see. So the good karma, bad karma, healthy, unhealthy karma, doing, mostly depend on this, what the origin of it, the source of it is this passa, this contact, you see. And then this contact, which I explained, the body-mind combination, has a good approach of it or the bad approach of it. And then the intention, that what we talk about, the karma constitute the intention. When that intention we take into consideration, in explanation of this, whatever the contact, last week or a week before that, I gave 4 things to take into consideration: feeling, perception, intention, contact, and recollection and remembrance. These 5 things were explained. So this contact still has the intention. How we look at something, how we approach something, that contact has the intention there. So that when we have the sense discipline, we always have a better, profitable, healthy contact, you see, rather than unhealthy aspect, you see. Always has a good intention in it, And whenever that good intention is there, then all what we think, what we say, what we do are for our own benefit, for our own healing, for our own well-being, you see. Emotional, mental well-being depend on that. So when we don't have the sense discipline, then our contact is not going to have a good intention. These are very subtle mental processes, you see. This is what the subject of the insight meditation, you see. So this is why I said last time in the Dhammanupassana, under this section, these things are all chapter by chapter explained, you see. When we look into this, whatever the body-mind process, when we look into this mental phenomena, these all supposed to be clear to us. We're supposed to see how this work within our own body-mind system. And it is not just closing our eyes, we can see this. We don't need to close our eyes to see this, in our everyday life. Wherever we are, whatever we do, we have to have some sort of awareness into these things. This is where the real knowledge of the Buddhism comes, you see. It's not just by studying the discourses or reading all these books. That does not bring this kind of knowledge. You need to stay alert and awake and examine your own body-mind process, whether you sit on the cushion or whether you walk around or wherever you are, whatever you do, have some sort of alert, awake nature to see what's happening here, what I do to myself, where my mind take, how I look at an incident, event, why I keep doing this. That has to be examined. That is what the insight is. You've got to see that. And then also, you see, the feelings that we're talking about. Pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. These are the 3 kind of feelings in the Buddhist teaching comes, No matter what kind of feelings we talk about, they all can be categorized into these things. We have good feelings, we have unpleasant or bad feelings, and sometimes neither pleasant nor unpleasant. This is what we have, these 3 things. But these are experiences. Pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant. These experiences are limited But whatever way we begin to approach to these experiences, and started to reflect and think about it, then it is limitless. In the morning, it was a good feeling. In the noon, at noon, it is a bad feeling, and in the evening, it is another one. It all depends on how we have approached to it, how we have reflect upon it. So then again, the good feeling become a bad thing, bad become good. There is no, in a particular way we can stick to and say these are all good feeling kind of. It depends on the time and the place, and so on and so on. It all go this way, that way, you see. It never stabilize, even though generally we say good feeling, bad feeling, neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. So then, for this feeling also, even though we talk about this pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling, what is the source? What is the origin of these feelings? It says, "Passo bhikkave nidano vedananam nidana sambhava." Passo vedananam nidana sambhava. The contact is the source, the origin of these pleasant, unpleasant feelings. So then, this contact aspect, which gives rise to this pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant feelings, we never have any idea about, you see. That means that we are gone away or blown away with this, whatever the feelings. We, in a speedy way, we go along with it. We don't see this kind of a pleasant, unpleasant feeling is all depending on my approach, my contact. You see, even though we have been around 50, 60, 70, whatever years, still we are ignorant about that. Still, we are not really seeing it. So that means if we don't see it, and if we have no knowledge about it, if we don't really clearly see that, that means we're still going to have pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant, no pleasant, no unpleasant feelings, and it all. This is what always arises, and we have no any stability of our mind. You see, we have no any control over these things. They're just shooting up like bamboo in the spring. It is so interesting to see in the spring. You can walk in a mountain where there are bamboos, and when you walk, there is nothing on your path. 40 minutes later, when you come up, you will see the bamboo shoots coming up 5-6 inches already up there. When you come after 45, 1 hour later, you see. It just come from nowhere. This is a real experience, when you live in a mountain with all this bamboo forest. In the spring, you can see it just shoot up while you're looking at it. So this is how it all arises, you see. Has to have a little control over it. Control means understanding about it. Therefore, you approach to things in the right way. When you have the sense discipline, it make you go like that, so that pleasant, unpleasant feeling can be in a kind of a management. And this is why in the Satipatthana also, and in the mindfulness, always it says feeling is impermanent. It is not me. It is not myself. That kind of ideas are given so that in a certain way, we won't get caught up with these feelings, whether it is a pleasant feeling or the unpleasant feeling. Whatever it is, we can just look at it, rather than embracing it, rather than grasping it and try to get rid of certain feelings or try to hold on to a certain feelings, you see. They arises, they ceases. Therefore, we are training ourselves to see these sense-related experiences are temporary. There is no any reality in it, you know. They just appear, disappear kind of a thing, you see. And whenever this kind of a thing is mentioned and said, especially, you know, the first noble truth of suffering in the Buddhist teaching, which talk about this aspect, this suffering aspect. Suffering doesn't mean kind of all painful kind of a thing. This dukkha word basically means it has a nature to change. It has a nature to subject to become different, you see. This has different meanings like that. This is what the nature is all about, you know. It cannot be maintained exactly the same way. It is subject to change, you know. It's not my choice or your choice. That's how the nature is, you know. These are all included in this, whatever the suffering, you see. So then whenever we really hear it, some, you know, oh, you know, Buddhism is negative and talking about the suffering aspect, we don't want to hear. Even some people get really offended whenever this way we address it, you know. To us, it is all because they refuse to accept the truth, you know. Even though they look for the truth, even though they are interested in the truth, they cannot handle the truth, you know. So then this way, whenever we see about what happened to us, what is going on in our life in this way, what is happening around us, it is not a depression, or it is not the sadness, or it is not the sorrowful or negative feeling that we're going to have. We are awakened, you see. We are awakened to this universal truth, you know. We are awakened to the truth which is in ourselves, you know, that we ourselves go through, you see. And therefore, in a detached way, we look at it, you know. When we begin to look at it in that detached way, it is the most interesting thing, you see. Without clinging to, whenever we see it, it is not personalizing it, not putting me into it. It begins to stabilize our body. It stabilizes our emotions. It stabilizes our mind. When the body is stabilized, when the emotions are stabilized, when the mind is stabilized, that is what leads to the liberations. That is when we find this release, you know. All these mind constructed web of lies we begin to see, you see. We begin to see this web of all these delusions, illusions that we have created in our own mind, related to our experiences and related to what is all around, you see. So then this is vipassana. You have to see this to liberate, you know. It is not somebody else can come and liberate yourself from your own web of illusion and delusions, likable, dislikable, whatever the things that we have created, you see. This is my own doing, you see. So then whenever we see that, whenever we understand, we don't do the bad karma, you see. We say the karma has to come to an end in order to be free from this, whatever the suffering is. That is the whole idea about doing good, you know. Not doing bad karma. That way I am subject to suffering. Now I'm going to go through this suffering into the future also. Therefore, I can't do that. So then when the mind also sees that, sense discipline comes, and then this whatever the contact, whenever it is properly seen, through the contact, we don't contribute to the arising of the bad karma, you see. We don't do that. And in another different level, it is not also that we're going to do the good karma either, you see. We don't do the good karma, we don't do the bad karma, so that the karma is not happening in our body-mind system, you see. We go beyond that good and the bad, you see. That is what the Heart Sutra at the end says, you know. Gate gate, paragate, parasangate savaha. Go beyond, you see. In order to go beyond, we don't need to go anywhere else. We have to go beyond of this so-called favorable, unfavorable, like, dislike, beautiful, ugly. This kind of a discrimination, when come to an end, when this kind of a discrimination ceases, that is the time we go beyond, you see. That is when we cross over, you see. Until that happens, we are bound to this side of the river, and we are subjecting ourselves to pain and the suffering, you see. The crossing over happens when the mind does not discriminate, you know, when the sense faculties calm down, when the sense faculties are serene, when we restrain our senses, and then this contact is not going to be in the bad way, you see. And that way we go beyond, you see. And there is another aspect, you see. In the Buddhism, for our existence, our body, mind's existence, or for us to live, in Buddhism mentions 4 kind of things, you know. They are called chattaro ahara. 4 food, 4 elements are there, you see. 4 nutrients. For the body, the kabalinkara ahara, that means all the food that we eat, you know, the bananas and the nuts and rice and the noodles and all this, whatever the stuff is necessary for the survival of the body, you see. And then the pasahara. The second one is called for this continuation, for this whatever the nourishment, the nutrient is contactive. Contact is something that I talk about, is another factor, another element, another thing necessary for this whatever the body mind to continue. This existence is supported by the contact. Mano sanchetana. The third one is called mano sanchetana. It means a mental intention, you see, or volitions. Some sort of intentions, you know. This is also contribute to our whatever the survival, you see, the maintenance of this existence, the life, you know. This is another factor. The fourth one is called vijnana ahara, consciousness itself, you know. It's also needed for our existence, you see. So then whenever these are called food, these are called nutrients. So then, as we know, when we eat the bad food, bad things are consumed, it's going to cause us the problem, you see. In the same way, this contact, necessary for our existence, necessary for our living, when the wrong way it goes on, it all contribute to our emotional, mental, and pain and the suffering, you see. So in order to be little healthy in the mind, a proper nutriment of contact supposed to be there, you see. And that's what this sense discipline is going to help us with. When we have the sense discipline, then the nutriment for the existence necessary, this contact is going to be much healthy. That way, our little time, wherever we are, that we can maintain some sort of a peaceful environment, you see. A peaceful existence is supported by the proper approach of the contact. When the contact is in the wrong way with goes on, then it all going to give us the bad result. It all going to hurt us. It all going to create all these whatever the emotional disturbances. And also, as I said, it is the source of origin and source and origin of all the bad karmas. All the bad behaviors is generated from there, you see. So then when we understand this, we can see how this thing works, this mechanism, this technical part we begin to see. And therefore, once we understand it, correcting it, not following it to hurt ourselves is what the practice is, Stay alert, stay awake, be mindful of it, and discipline your own senses, and then the contact will be right. That way, you are healed. You have your self-compassion that needed to heal yourself, needed to heal your spirit, needed to heal your soul, needed to heal your mind. This sense discipline is important. When we don't have it, then it started to hurt us, harm us, and then we go all around looking for some sort of healing, you see. We expect others to come and bless us so that I can get healed, It's a very religious concept. I am not against it. We have to understand people need it. The ritualistic aspect is important. We can't totally ignore it. There is a time and place for it. But at the same time, you have to conduct yourself in a way, that way your living, your existence become a blessing upon yourself. Let's meditate.